Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So something really interesting just happened. Well, not just happened, it happened like an hour and a half before the recording of this video. I was pretty much busy at work and I saw like a lot of notifications from a lot of friend groups, and yeah, the Forbidden limited list for September 25th has been released. September 25th means that this Forbidden limited list won't be applied for YCS Mexico this weekend, and it won't be applied for Dortmund, which is the following weekend after, the 23rd and 24th. So whatever happens on this list is not gonna affect the performance of whatever decks people wish to play for the next two YCSs. And that's very interesting to see, because usually when YCSs try to be concluded before the end of a format, we see one of two things happening. Either one, we see people already prepared for the next format and see like what deck would be taking its place for the next event, and just use like the last YCS like as a testing ground for newer decks and decks that were already like doing well while not being affected by this list. Or we just have a situation where a deck is just way too strong and it's just way too good at the current format, and we see that deck dominating and just taking its last run at an event. That's what happened with Tier Laments before the Forbidden limited list that happened in February, which is when I started this channel, around that same time. So without further ado, let's begin. We already have one Forbidden card, which is Kashtira Arise Heart. This card alone already changes a lot for the format. Like, as many people already know, this is a very minimalistic list. Not many cards were hit. But I want to talk about like every single card for a list a little bit. So if you look at our current TCG format, you see that a lot of people are playing like books, a lot of talents, a lot of like non-engine cards that targets a good variety of decks, but it's more catered for Kashtira. And the number one reason is because of the existence of this card. And now that this card is no longer in the game, it's very hard to debate whether or not you're going to see those non-engine cards still in the main deck. However, it gives a lot more breathing room for decks that were already weak to this card. We're talking about decks like Tier Laments, decks like the Cyber's Pile decks, like just a lot of decks that naturally just lost to stuff like this. Have one less target on their back, meaning that they'll probably see a lot more play, and that's really good for the format, because the trend that we've been seeing this format is that a lot of focus was on Kashtira, meaning that half of your deck's requirement for doing well in an event needed to have an answer for Kashtira, because it was still a dominant force. So just having this card in the Forbidden list just heavily neuters that strategy. It makes that strategy way less impactful and worrisome. So this already alone already changes a lot. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Arise Heart. Like, sadly, that pretty much means that we won't be able to see like the future cards that work with the Visas archetype work alongside this card. Like in the OCG, there's a card that's coming out in Age of Overlord that actually had synergy with this card, but we won't be seeing that in the TCG anytime soon, because yeah, this is already a good hit. It's a very systematic hit. That's it for Forbidden. Our first limited is Bestial Magnamut. So I think a lot of people already saw this coming. Like, if you deal with a Rise Heart, dragons pretty much become like one of the better decks of the format. As you already know from YCS Vancouver, dragons were already doing really well in the TCG. So just having a card that hits a little bit of their consistency. I guess we might as well just talk about Chaos Space while we're at the topic. Just handling 2 cards that aid the dragon deck is already really good. I don't think dragons are going to go away anytime soon. I'm just thinking that this is just like a very minimalistic hit that helps with just lowering the ceiling of this deck. Because if you look at the current format and you look at a Rise Heart being gone, dragons are pretty much just going to be a dominant force. It's gonna be one deck that's gonna be on a lot of people's radar, and this card being a 3 is just like very beneficial for that strategy. Same thing with Magnamut. I think the decks are still very playable. I think you will see dragons still topping even after this minimalistic hit, but just the fact that they did this is already more than welcomed. So that's it for limited. So the last 2 cards, Orange Light and Gazelle. So Orange Light only got hit because of the Ishizu cards. Everybody knows this. You can, like, right now there's no real deck that's abusing this card. Like, the only real deck that you can think of that can use this card like very efficiently, that actually has a foothold in the format, is Drytron. But with Ava still forbidden, I don't think this card will be as problematic in that strategy as people would be led to believe. Gazelle. I really like this. I mean, a lot of people already saw this coming. But I think Gazelle coming to 3 is going to help Salamangreat very significantly. The deck was already doing well with the new support from Soul Burning Volcano. The deck was already contesting against other decks. The deck already, like, even have won and topped up a couple of regionals already before this ban list. So seeing this card at 3 is going to help that deck a lot. You will see a lot more people play this deck. I don't think Salamangreat is kind of unfair by any means, but Gazelle coming to 3 is just going to make the deck a lot more consistent and playable at achieving a win condition. And, like, I'm pretty much okay with just unlimiting cards just to help archetypes that keep them remotely playable, but not to the level where it's just outright unfair. If you noticed, a Rise Heart was the only Kashtira hit. Like, Fenrir is still a 3, Planet is still a 3, and I think it's very soon to tell, but if there's one thing I have to say about this format, I think we're going to be in a format where we'll be seeing Fenrir a lot. I think this card is going to be in everybody's main deck, if not everybody's main deck or side deck. It pretty much is a strategy that just cannot play this card. Age of Overlord is going to be extra interesting because we're going to have Diabellstar as a splashable engine, and in the OCG we didn't have both of them together because Fenrir was already forbidden by the time the cards from Age of Overlord just became prevalent in the format. Over here, we still have everything pretty much except for Unicorn, like max copies. So, like, I think Kashtira is still a playable deck. I don't think we're going to see it like dominating events ever again. However, you do have to be careful with this deck because just having this, all of these at 3. Shifter is still like a 3, so this is basically another shifter deck. And I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see this deck fade out of the format, but slowly creeping in and sneaking in and just taking events or topping events because people were just not prepared for them. It's pretty much the same situation you see with a deck like Floowandereeze. Like pretty much Floowandereeze is in the same boat. Like it's this really pseudo consistent deck that can play Shifter and can play Floodgates and can play cards that just win them the game, but people are just not going to be prepared for them because stuff like this card is already gone from the game. But like slowly but surely, don't be surprised if you just randomly see this deck like just winning or topping an event just because people didn't actually side for it or people just didn't draw the right cards for it. And at the end of the day, this is a shifter deck. I think we're going to see graveyard centric decks a lot more. I already spoke about how Tearlament is a viable strategy if you just take away the like non-engine cards and the stuff away from the game. And I already brought it up on my last video, but this deck has a really strong Unchained matchup. Like if people are just going to stay with Unchained, this opens the door for people like that play stuff like Tearlaments, and they're just going to start like rolling advantage over those other decks just because they were not prepared for it, and the biggest target on their back, which was a Rise Heart, is pretty much just gone. I think the way the format is looking as right now is alright that we got a minimalistic hit because the format is very diverse, and I think that like with proper deck building and shifting between engines just for the different separate decks is going to like make this format very favorable for people. The two things that we need to take note of is one, we still have degenerate cards that were not eliminated, like Archfiend King Calamity is still in the game. Like Pot of Prosperity is still at 3. That's a wild one for me. Like I really think that just keeping this card at 3 is going to help like it's going to make a lot of people like win their games just because they saw the right card at the right time. Like I don't care about cards like Eradicator or D-Barrier. I think those are cards that, like, yes, they are problematic lingering effects, but at the end of the day, if proper deck building and proper deck choice and just adapting to the format can play around these cards. That being said, you will be seeing them still being played, and people will not be happy to see that happening. But yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts. I pretty much have to change the... I pretty much kind of have to change the Kaiser Beatdown deck. Like this card being at 1, it doesn't really hurt the deck super often. Like I'll probably do something like put Chaos Base and put something like Levianeer, or maybe just max out on Druid's Worm. That's another option. Like I'll probably do something like this, and all of a sudden the deck is now playable for next format. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below, and let me know what decks do you look forward to playing this in this new format. I think this format, just a Rise Heart being gone from the game, like, it just makes this list already welcomed. I think that once Age of Overlord comes out, the format will drastically change. I think a lot of things will happen. I think we will have like a 3 or 4 decks format again. Once Valiant Smashers comes around, a lot of people will be worried about that deck just because it's very, very consistent at what it does. It is not affected by many common hand traps, and like, Archfiend King Calamity is in the game, and like, if you remember this card, that's pretty much that, but in synchro form. But yeah, that's about it. Welcome to the new format, I guess. Keep practicing and keep dueling.